Thank you for joining me today, Steven.
Hi, Jen.
So what does being data-driven mean to the Belgian Ministry of Defence, and what were the driving factors behind the data-driven initiative?
Yeah. So being data-driven to us means we use the data we're generating every day. We have lots of transactional applications, and they store lots of data, but we don't always use the data inside of those applications. So being data-driven means we have a project opening up the data inside of it, and then using that data that's available and maybe matching it with other applications. So we can do the planning in one application and then do the follow-up in another application. And then we extract the data from both applications, and we can compare the data from one application to the other and follow up on the planning if it's going okay, yes or no, and then adapt for the next exercises or stuff like that.
And so this initiative started in 2009. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
And how did it get off the ground? What was the instigator behind that?
Well, the instigator was we finally noticed we have lots of data in the logistical segment of the army. Behind lots of military operations, there's a big logistical machine generating lots of data, and because we transport so many stuff into a deployment. But you have to follow all the material you're transporting, and you have to know, okay, that material is in Iraq, that material is in Afghanistan, or that material is in Africa. And we try to get track of all the data we have from what is where,
And your recent project that you're working on is opening the data internally. I can see how that might be a problem externally, but so you've been working on opening the data internally in order to achieve cross-domain data exploitation.
Yeah.
So walk us through what that means and how you're approaching that project.
So cross-domain means we have lots of domains inside of the army. You have the logistical part of the army, you have the HR department, you have the finance department, you have the operations department, the guys who are doing the trainings. But like HR information is important for all the other domains. The finance information is important for all the other domains, but they don't necessarily have access to all the data. And that's why we're trying to open all those fields of information to the guys who need the information. And it used to be they had to have lots of inside knowledge of who's doing what and kindly ask permission to use that data. And now our project is actually centralizing all the data and also making the access easier. So not all data is by definition open inside the army, but it's a lot easier now than 5 years ago to get access to the data.
Right, and so what kinds of challenges did you face in doing this?
We have some technical challenges because you have to pass by the functional guy who's responsible for an application, but he doesn't necessarily talk the technical language we're using. So sometimes we're lost in translation on that way. And the other side is morely a political view within the organization. People defending their own ground. And that's sometimes a big problem. So you have to do a bit of marketing to sell your own project and getting access to the data.
Right. And so what kinds of lessons have you learned? And did you find anything unexpected, or did anything surprise you?
Yeah, sometimes it's even the simplest things that can be so hard, like getting access to a database, how you have to practically beg access to get it. And then the other thing, people, they use Access or Excel spreadsheets, and you think they know about data, but actually they're just seeing numbers and playing with it, but they don't really have a grasp of doing data modeling. And I think that's something we need to work on more, advocating data modeling, not really the coding itself, but just thinking in terms of concepts. That's something very important for the next few years for us.
That's interesting. And has your work extended to other ministry offices?
Not really. We're kind of silos within the government. We also have other requirements because as an army we work decentralized with all the deployments around the world. So our own project is not really transferable to other departments. Of course it can be used, but they probably have other requirements. So there should be some changing there.
Interesting. And so in addition to being the technical project officer for the ministry, you are also a conductor at the Startup Bus.
Yeah.
What is that?
Startup Bus is a cool project. Our tagline is empowering the people who want to disrupt the status quo. So we try to, not really teach people, but we're offering them experience in 3 days where they have to start a new startup and be able to launch it at the end of the trip. And that way they learn what it is to be an entrepreneur, and they can also train their own skills. So we have developers, designers, people we call hustlers who are doing business and marketing and copywriting and all that stuff. We just put them on a bus, and they have to pitch their own ideas they want to work on during 72 hours. Then the bus departs to a big conference, and they form teams on the bus, and they're competing to other teams on other buses driving on the entire continent. And we're doing that in the Americas, but also in Europe, Africa, and we've done one recently in Australia. It's just getting to show people they can do a lot of things in a very short amount of time. They just have to have the willpower to do it.
And so there's multiple buses competing, not just against each other on the bus, but against the other buses. Yeah,
true. So you have a bus coming from New York, one from Silicon Valley driving to Austin, Texas, to South by Southwest, and one from Chicago and Tampa, Florida. They have all their own little projects, and they're competing against each other. And then in the end there's a big pitching event where they have to pitch their startup, and then they're judged by people like Dave McClure or Guy Kawasaki. It's pretty cool to do that. And it keeps me sharp.
And so as a conductor, I'm assuming that means you're sort of in charge of one of the buses?
Yeah, that means I plan the route, do the hotels, organize events during the trip, because people have to exercise for the pitching. So when you're driving from New York to Austin, you can do a few stops in those 3 days, and you have to have events for those people.
Right. And what kinds of interesting projects have you seen come out of the bus events?
Inside the bus event itself, in the European competition 2013, there was a really interesting project for people with mental health problems. So when you have something like a depression, you have to write things down for your therapist, and every 2 weeks you have to give him paperwork you are filling in. And he has to copy it into his own application he's doing. Another problem is when you're running around with paper and you're filling in things, people are having they come ask you questions, what are you doing? And you have to say, I have a mental health issue or something. And the guys from the project, it's called Aiden, they were thinking, why not just make an app for that? So it looks like you're doing something on Instagram, but you're actually saying, I'm feeling depressed now or feeling pain. But nobody notices that. So that's a cool project.
Interesting. So one of the other goals of the Startup Bus project is to develop the entrepreneurial community. Yeah. And you've seen projects come out of the community post-event where people have gotten together to build things. What kinds of interesting things have you seen?
We've seen a few interesting things. One great example is Instacart. It's a grocery delivery app, so you can order inside the app things you want to have delivered by the end of the day, and then somebody else will go do your groceries and bring it to you at your workplace or deliver it later on that day. And it's really cool, and it's built by two guys who met each other during a competition, but they were not on the same team. And a few weeks after the competition they said, I want to work with you, and then they started building their app, and they recently got funding and evaluation for a few $1 billion, so it's pretty big.
Nice. And so how many people are in that community about right now?
Right now we have about 1,000 people over the entire world.
And how many events have you had thus far?
I've done 3 of them, and I think we have done like 15 or something in total.
And so can you share where the 2015 event is going to be?
We're going to announce it soon, but it's going to be not in Austin, Texas. We're not going to South by Southwest this year. So the Americas edition will be in June, and it will be in Nashville, Tennessee, at a big conference over there.
And so buses will leave from various different cities, like Chicago or New York or whatever, and then head to Nashville.
Yeah, that's true.
Interesting. And so how can people participate?
Well, they just have to leave their email address at startabus.com, and when we have more information, we'll send an email, and then people can apply via our process.
Fantastic. And so to close our conversation today, I'm interested to know what people or projects you're following personally. What are you finding really exciting or interesting these days?
I have lots of things I find interesting. I spend a lot of time reading things on the internet and reading books, and I have lots of separate fields that interest me. Something that's really interesting to me right now is Slack. I'm really impressed by how great it is to work as a team via Slack. It's probably something like HipChat and stuff like that, but Slack is really, it worked for our team. Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana, it's also a really great project. Spark is really interesting right now to me, and I hope to introduce it in the Army in the next 2 years or something. But I really like how they use Scala and how on Java it is to write it. And then next to that, Node.js is also a very cool language to work in. I'm looking forward to Max Ogden's DAT project. It's like Git for data. Maybe we can use it also in the Army. But I have to follow it a bit. Then I'm impressed by Mapbox, how they're reinventing maps, making great tools. They just launched Turf.js, and I'm looking forward to play with it also. And then from Belgium, there's a great project. They're doing a hardware company. It's called BigBoards.io, and they've reinvented the PC, but not as a personal computer, but a personal cluster. So they have a hexagon of 6 computer boards, and each board has 1 terabyte of disk space and a quad core of CPU. And they're also building a software layer like NPM, but then for big data. So people can install their own tint, as they call it, and just install Hadoop and other big data tools really easily. So I'm looking forward to where they're coming from. And I think they're also speaking at Strata Hadoop this week. Mm-hmm. And then, people I'm following, DevOps community, Patrick Dubois, the guys from Etsy, their engineering blog, I love it. Netflix, the same thing. Garrett Rusgrove, who was involved in the UK government, and I think he's working now at Puppet. He's been giving some great talks. Developers, people like Jen Schiffer, she's really cool on Twitter and she's funny. She's parodying JavaScript courses. I love it. Mike Bostock, D3GS, is also really cool. Then personally, music interests me a lot, so 70s house and disco and funk. And so people like Motor City Drum Ensemble, who's mixing it all up, Prince, and then hardcore techno and house. It's just really cool. People like Too Many DJs and James Murphy. They're not like EDM. It's more getting back and recreating it all. They've done a really cool project called Espacio, and they've custom-built sound system of 50,000 watts, twice the power of the wall of sound. It's amazing to hear it. And to finish, maybe people like Cindy Gallup, who's doing Make Love Not Porn, Change the Ratio. I really love how she's doing positive things. It's great to follow her on Twitter. I don't know if she's here this week. It would be great. And then maybe to contrast a bit with people like Elon Musk, who is a great entrepreneur doing great things in space and electricity with his electric car, with Tesla. It's really cool. John Foreman from MailChimp, also a great blogger. He's got some great information in his tweets. Ariel Waldman was doing, I think, Space for America or something, space apps, stuff like that. Hillary Parker from Etsy, also great to follow. And then I just read The Hard Thing About Hard Things, and even from Ben Horowitz. Mm-hmm. It's a great book. Even to me, as a civil servant who's supposed to be boring and not entrepreneurial at all. it's an inspiring book, and I'm taking so many things from that and trying to apply it inside the government. So, yeah, it's great to follow all those people.
Excellent. Thank you very much for talking with me today.
You're welcome.